I can't get out there. We've got all of his drive, both arms on one side. So I'm literally driven to my left side. And fortunately for us, this escape is very strong. Obviously, he knows I can turn, but we're going to go through this series of escapes. So we're going to take our right arm, the lower arm, and I'm going to bump up and bring it through into this position. And you need to do this through a series of bridges. Remember, when we fall down is when the space happens. So to get my arm in here, we have to be bumping up and getting, bridging and getting our arm through. My left arm is going to go from the armpit to this lead shoulder. And really what we're going to want to do is once my right arm gets into this gap, we're going to do one more final bump and sort of pseudo turn, and it's going to get my arm to right in this area where my right elbow, the low elbow, is below the neck and near his shoulder. That's important. My left arm, the top arm, is going to stay in front of this shoulder, and then we're going to run away. However, it's so important that when we run away, we do so just as the hitchhiker escape, and I step with the bottom leg first. So we'll run through this. I'll show you without Lance in a second. But we're going to run through this. So I'm pushing with my left arm, and I'm going to engage my right elbow, or my right lat, rather. Once we're doing that, what the goal is for me to hold Lance here and then run away. Now, remember, it's so important that when we bridge and run, my bottom leg goes first. My left leg goes first. And you can see the result. What happens when you bridge, push, and step, he slides off of your body. So this is important. And instead of just turning any old way, he's still connected to me, I need to push, and then I need to bridge, and then I need to step with my bottom leg. If I do that well, I'm already starting to get out from underneath him. Now, there's a lot of gaps that are going to need to be covered. First gap is going to be this hole here. So we'll rotate around here. The first gap I need to make sure I cover is the bottom hooked gap. So when I do a bridge and step, this hand is going to cover this hooked area, because we all know that this bottom hook could come like really getting in there quickly if I fail my movement. So this hand covers the bottom gap. My right hand, once I begin turning, its job is to cover the strangle gap. So I want to make sure that my right hand is up here ready to receive his strangle arm, because the weakness of this position is that I'm turning my back. As long as all bases are covered, here's what the result is. So I've got myself in a position. I start to turn. I want to make sure that I bump up and I get my elbow down. Now we activate our elbow to keep him where he is. I do a big bridge and step, and this hand's going to cover that lower gap. My right arm's going to cover the strangle wrist coming in, and then I'm going to go all the way to my knee. Once we're in this position, we do a 2-on-1. Most of the time, Lance will be coming around my side, and this should look very familiar. We pivot back to the guard, and we receive, or we get back to our guard through turtle position. Again, that turtle position, remember, it's a transition. We're going to use it right here. We're going to run away from him, put our knee down, and then pivot to the guard. What it looks like, without Lance on top, it looks like this. We've got our arms in. He chooses this pin. This hand's going to come out. We're going to bump up. This hand's going to come out to the shoulder, so that through a series of bumps, I'm able to get my arm to where it needs to be. This arm goes below the neck, not above the neck, but below the neck. And it's going to keep him where he is. You're going to activate your lat, but it's really about keeping him where he is, so that when I run away, we create too much distance for him to take my back. So it's here. Then we're going to bridge up and begin stepping with the bottom leg as we cover that bottom gap. It's very important that you take a step pretty much as far out as you can with your bottom leg. So you really step. The hand that's here, as I start that tipping point, we start looking, my hand is going to cover that strangle hand. It covers the strangle hand, my knee gets up under my chest, and we sit back to the guard. So we have a very, very productive movement set. So if I was doing the other side, we push away, I cover that gap, my hand covers the strangle side, my knee gets up to the chest, and then we slide around, head really low, and we get back to our guard. So let's go through this with Lance one more time. So we're here. I'm in standard cross side, but man, no match for this type of pin. So we're going to start bumping out. I'm going to start elevating the shoulder, getting my body out to this position. Elbow below the neck, hand covers the gap, and then I'm gonna sprint away. We're gonna bridge, sprint away, catch that strangle hand, and then we're gonna make sure that we return to some sort of guard position. When, the reason why it's so important that we take away, that we step that bottom leg out, is that we're doing a hitchhiker. Let me tell you about this top arm. This is also a very important aspect of, we need to be on the bottom shoulder, not the top shoulder. The top shoulder could leave room for an underhook. A lot of bad things could come. There's an opportunity for Lance to hit an arm lock no matter how I go, if it's the top or the bottom. However, when it's the bottom arm, you're going to be primed and ready when we're hitting our hitchhiker. If he does go on my arm, I'm just going to continue running out in that hitchhiker formation. It's not likely, but it does happen. That's really the primary reason why we're short with our elbow and I'm not shoving him away with my hand. If I use a stiff arm approach, that, especially when it gets to the top shoulder, that arm's gonna be very vulnerable. We use a very short elbow position and we're gonna sprint right around relatively efficiently. And that leaves very little room for him to attack this arm. Remember, it's not up here where the arm is open, it's down here where the arm is relatively tight, and we can then turn to the, go through turtle and then sit into the guard. Super important defense, you're gonna need it, and it's a good one. If you get stuck in turtle, just go a 2-on-1 on that strangle side, push it away, and then you can choose where he goes. If he's on the right side of your body, we know to switch the legs. If he's on the left side, I'll post that leg. Sometimes there's sort of a recovery position that you need if he's moving from side to side in turtle. Other times, you just continue your movement right to the guard. Okay, we're gonna look at this near side underhook arm from the bottom, from cross side. But what I'd like to reiterate is that it's a bit risky from the cross side bottom. In my opinion, I like this one a lot better when someone is passing your guard. But let's go through it from the bottom of cross side. It's going to be a position that we use only when Lance's bottom arm is on my far side of my body. For obvious reasons, but because we got to keep in mind from top of cross side, remember any underhooking at all, and he's going to go to head and hip. So if Lance is in head and arm cross side like this, then it's permissible for me to bring this near underhook in and use this to get to the top. But if I stay here for any length of time and Lance understands the sort of the conditions of cross side, he's going to switch his cross side. Yep, and now all of a sudden, this arm becomes vulnerable. He could bread cutter me. He could do all kinds of things. And that escape is essentially just gone. So we do this escape when the arm is on the far side of my body. And I'll demonstrate it here. And then we're going to look at situations, especially one particular situation where this is just really one of your go-tos as a last resort. So the escape as it's done is we use this underhook. So I'm going to bump up and move my body underneath my train bar, underneath Lance, and I want to begin facing my legs to his head. That's important because we're essentially going to run out of this cross-side pin. So the bump and then the elevation down starts my punch. It starts to elevate Lance's body up towards my head. Then my knees are going to fall to the side, and we're going to begin walking towards Lance. And if I do so well and he doesn't move, then you can end up in a front headlock situation. You can end up in a front headlock situation. A lot of times people like to go into anacondas and darces type things, situations from this escape. And it's a legitimately good escape. But remember, please remember, the essential cross-side pinning top, he should immediately switch his cross-side pin. When I put in